My next patron question is from Trevor, who was curious how a recent animated film might have fared in an alternate universe. How different do you think Blue Sky's Nimona would have been from the final film we got from Annapurna? I know they followed Blue Sky's existing layout pretty closely, but what do you think might have been planned for Blue Sky's version that did not make it to the final film? This can be anything from creative choices to how the film was marketed. According to directors Troy Quain and Nick Bruno, the finished version of Nimona was not too radically different from what they were planning at Blue Sky, although there were obviously elements that were changed a little. They've given some interviews that went into detail about discussions that were had with Disney that were different from the ones they had with Annapurna and Netflix. Obviously, the big question people seem to have is regarding the film's LGBTQ themes. Disney has, for a number of years, been including more LGBTQ elements in their productions, which I personally think is wonderful. Some have been mere breadcrumbs, like a few minor background characters, and then you have cases like one of the main protagonists in Strange World, and several thematic and character moments in the animated series The Outhouse. I don't identify as LGBTQ though, so someone who is might be a better judge of whether those count as good representation or not. There have been stories about Disney being uncertain about these themes being present in Nimona, with Nick Bruno saying that Disney executives were a little worried about how the audience might react, citing LeFou from the live-action Beauty and the Beast remake as an example. They apparently got a lot of hate mail for that, but that movie still made over $1 billion. What's a few letters? Disney acquired 20th Century Fox and Blue Sky in early 2019, and the company seems to have increased the queer representation in their family productions since then, with Pride merchandise even being sold at the parks. If LGBTQ products did not sell that much or only appealed to a niche market, would Disney be displaying them so openly at parks and stores? Companies respond to what makes them money, and this obviously makes them money, no matter how many angry tweets they get. I do think getting picked up by producer Megan Ellison, who's openly lesbian, and by Netflix allowed for more of those themes to be included in the finished film. Another question is how different the story of Nimona was. Animated films go through many story changes in production, sometimes even up to the 11th hour. The Emperor's New Groove and WALL-E are notable examples of animated films that alter their endings late into production. According to Troy Quain, over 90% of the story of Nimona was the same when the film was initially shut down, with only minor tweaks made after Annapurna picked up the movie. Megan Ellison even encouraged the filmmakers to make any changes they felt were necessary to make the film that much greater and not be afraid to take certain chances. When DNEG became the new animation house, they had to restart a lot of animation but still stay faithful to what was being done at Blue Sky. Former Blue Sky animators have been sharing their early animation tests from Nimona, and they're extremely close to what DNEG ended up doing. And of course, there were also artists who made the jump from Blue Sky to DNEG to help complete the movie. By the way, I'm getting a lot of this information from an excellent article written in Paste Magazine that goes into the production of Nimona and how it transferred from Disney to Annapurna. I'll put a link in the description. Now let's say Disney had decided to keep Blue Sky going and release Nimona. How would it have fared under their distribution and marketing? It's difficult to know. The first and only Blue Sky film they released was Spies in Disguise, which did not do well at the box office. That honestly confused me. It had a Christmas release date with a possibility of staying power through January, as well as a sellable hook. Plus, spy films are generally popular. Admittedly, there was competition from the new Jumanji and Star Wars movies grabbing the 4-quadrant audience. Frozen 2 was also still pulling in strong numbers. But there's no reason why Spies in Disguise could not have gotten some of that pie, especially in pre-pandemic times. Maybe it would have done better in September 2019, where it was scheduled to be released at one point. Who knows? The other 20th century animated films distributed by Disney, Ron's Gone Wrong and the Bob's Burgers movie, also did not break records. Although Ron's Gone Wrong was released when there were still pandemic fears among families, and as I talked about in another video, Bob's Burgers had a box office ceiling. In a world where Disney distributed Nimona, when would they have released it? It's possible they would have put Turning Red in the summer, shifted Lightyear to 2023, and kept Strange World where it is. In this fictional scenario, it might have opened in March 2022. There was no real family competition as Sing 2 was winding down its run at that point, so this would have been a logical spot for it. If they made some awesome trailers for it that emphasized the rebellious nature of Nimona and the futuristic medieval setting, that might have grabbed viewers' interest. Nimona is exactly the kind of movie that would appeal to all genders. Plus, the reviews were excellent, so that might have piqued further curiosity from viewers. Aside from homophobes, I feel like it would have had strong word of mouth. So Nimona had the potential to have a decent box office run until Sonic the Hedgehog 2 arrived. Not astronomical numbers, but satisfying enough. But again, this is complete fantasy on my part. Now, was Disney's loss someone else's gain? Yes, it was. But let's not pretend they're the only studio who was initially going to produce a film, let it go elsewhere, and then it became a hit for someone else. That happens frequently in Hollywood. E.T., Pulp Fiction, Lord of the Rings, Good Will Hunting, Home Alone, Back to the Future, Twilight, Rush Hour. I could go on and on. Let's be thankful Nimona has joined those films in being rescued and completed for us to enjoy. Thank you for your question, Trevor.